For example, in 2010, UNDP launched 3 new development indices, namely the Multidimensional Poverty Index, MPI, the Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index, IHDI, and the Gender Inequality Index, GII, to help monitor the multidimensional nature of poverty, inequality, and women's empowerment. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, what would it take for Uganda to effectively address the complex challenges of poverty today? Studies have shown that the first step towards tackling poverty is to ask the right questions. And we need to ask the right questions as well here. We need to answer the questions like, who are the poor? Where do they live? What are their occupations and living conditions? How are they more likely to be affected by any shocks? And I think, if anything, we have seen the shocks today. We have seen the shocks of COVID. We've seen also the shocks of conflicts and the impact thereof. Why are they more likely to be affected? And what do they do? What do they need? These questions may seem simple, but in fact, they are the key to determining effective targeting, appropriate interventions, and whether actions have indeed been pro-poor. The Multidimensional Poverty Index, therefore, is a measure that helps to answer some of these questions. That is why the Sustainable Development Goal explicitly includes a target on reducing multidimensional poverty. By including such a target, the international community has committed to leave no one behind in the implementation of the SDGs. This means that the specific needs of vulnerable people, including children, women, persons with disabilities, people living with HIV/AIDS, older persons, indigenous people, refugees, and internally displaced persons and migrants need to be addressed so that their voices are heard and their active participation in the development agenda, in development as agents of change ensured. Recognizing the importance of the MPI, UNDP, in partnership with the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, has been measuring multidimensional poverty across the world and periodically publishing MPI reports. In addition, UNDP also supports estimation of multidimensional poverty at the national level across the world. The Global Multidimensional Poverty Index 2021 has shown that about 22% of people, 1.3 billion people, are identified as multidimensionally poor in 109 developing countries. Sub-Saharan Africa is home to the largest share of global MPI poor, with 556 million, highlighting the importance of action in Africa in achieving SDG number 1 globally. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, what are the findings of the Uganda National MPI report? And I think I will not repeat what Vincent presented brilliantly, but what I would like to focus on are the implications for us. What are the implications of these findings? On the measurement side, there is need to look beyond income criteria in assessing poverty, and I think we've talked about that over and over again. On the Uganda development strategy side, there is a need to find and implement accelerators for structural transformation. The pace of Uganda's structural transformation needs to be enhanced to tackle a number of things, including youth unemployment and multidimensional poverty. So it's not enough to just talk about the multidimensional poverty, but I think our focus should be, what should our response therefore be? And I'd like, with your permission, Honorable Minister, to focus on a few things. First of all, I would like to focus on the issue around industrialization. It is a key for socioeconomic transformation as we seek to address the multi-dimensional poverty issues that we are discussing today. It is a key for export revenues, job creation, poverty reduction, and rapid and sustained prosperity in developing countries like Uganda. Development experiences show that industrialization will contribute to inclusive growth, resilience, increased living standards, and transformation of the economy and society. In addition, industrialization can also bring the much-needed foreign direct investment and new technologies, as well as foster innovation and international competitiveness. From manufacturing and the private sector point of view, industrialization is an important foundation for entrepreneurship, business investment, technological progress, upgrading skills, and many more. And again, when we look at the Asian experience, it really shows the role that industrialization has played in terms of lifting people out of poverty. In Asia, just like many industrialized countries now, manufacturing, for example, shifted labor from a low productivity agriculture sector into high productivity manufacturing sector. And this has contributed to the acceleration in terms of their development. The second thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of our response, because again, it is not enough to just talk about the poverty, but then how do we get out of this and how do we create wealth? The second is intra-African trade, and I'm glad you're here, Honorable Minister, especially in the context of the Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement. This is a game changer for the continent's transformation, but also Uganda's transformation. Africa only trades amongst itself 16.6% only. When the rest of the world are trading amongst ourselves, I mean, we are still, why is Ghana not importing milk from Uganda, for example? And again, when we come back to the issue around trading amongst ourselves, it is not just about trading goods and services, it's really lifting people out of poverty by creating wealth. And I always say that many a times we are exporting our wealth to other spaces as Africans and importing poverty, and that needs to change. The AFCFTA therefore offers a major opportunity for socio-economic transformation in Uganda. It is poised to stimulate Uganda's economic recovery from COVID through a virtuous cycle of creating larger market opportunities. And recently, we have been supporting a number of business member organizations as a UN family, and the trade alone in DRC is 3 billion, if we get it right. The third thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of our response measures is tourism. It is key to reducing poverty, but is also poised to be tackling a number of issues, including rural poverty. And I want to link it back again to the issue around the Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement, because one of the areas that African countries want to trade amongst themselves is trading services and is also in tourism. The AFCFTA will therefore open Uganda like never before, and again, this will boost domestic and intra-regional travels. And all this, in our opinion, will be geared towards reducing or eradicating poverty. The fourth thing that I wanted to highlight very quickly in the interest of time is universal energy access. This is fundamental for tackling poverty. Recently, it struck us when we were doing some analysis and working with our WHO colleagues and the Ministry of Health that if you take, for example, LC4 health centers, you know, maybe you can say about only about 1,500 of them or more are not connected to the grid. And even if they were connected to the grid, it is not stable. And therefore, you cannot address the health dimension of poverty without also addressing the energy dimension. The new National MPI report of Uganda highlights that about 2/3 of households face deprivations in 2019-2020 in terms of access to clean energy or electricity. For these households, the introduction of clean energy solutions can bring vital services such as improved health, I talked about that already, better education, and affordable broadband, creating new jobs, livelihoods, and sustainable economic value to reduce poverty. In Uganda, still some more schools, health facilities, micro and small enterprises face challenges to access power. Improving clean energy access to these facilities and enterprises would help save lives and offer opportunities for value addition, learning, and reducing poverty at a transformative scale. And here we're talking about scale. The fifth thing, very quickly, is promoting private sector development. I'm sure that my colleague from UNCDF is giving us a thumbs up here by focusing on that. This is key for job creation, innovation, and financial inclusion. There is an urgent need for a competitive incentive mechanism to promote small and medium enterprises development and attract both domestic and foreign private investment in sectors that have a strong multiplier effect on growth. And finally, successful implementation of the parish development model is a major driver for rural transformation. It may be noted that the new Uganda MPI report shows that rural multidimensional headcount ratio of 50.2% is approximately 2.5 times higher than that of urban areas, 19.7%. In this context, we need to shift the conversation to how local economic development can be jump-started to facilitate production, manufacturing, and create employment. It should also be noted that at the level of parish, effective public administration and management of natural resources will be key factors, success factors. In this context, the PDM could be an effective tool for accelerating local economic development as well as industrialization. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, how do we take forward the findings and implications of the MPI? And I know colleagues in the United Nations family and others who are visiting here, joining us today, will be able to share some reflections as well from where they sit. But let me say that on our part, as UNDP, we are already partnering with the government and civil society to implement different interventions. I talked about the Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement. I will not go into that into detail, but the SME for Trade facility that we are looking into is one that I think would help move this agenda forward in terms of the response to what we are seeing and what is coming out of the MPI. Our work around youth, our Youth Innovation and Entrepreneurship Facility is one of those things that we are looking into. Digital work, our support to the PDM, and we're currently together with the UN family organizing and supporting the government through Makerere University on Innovation Lab to rethink on how best we can make sure that the PDM works. And again, there's a lot more that together as a family we are doing. So as I conclude, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the government of Uganda one more time through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics for partnering with us in the United Nations in developing the MPI, as well as the Poverty Status Report, and for co-hosting and launching this event with us. It is my hope that the outcomes of the MPI will influence the fight against poverty, and it's a fight, in all its forms and dimensions, and deliver the development aspirations for all Ugandans through leaving no one behind. I pledge the continued support of the United Nations family in Uganda's journey towards sustainable development. And I wish us all very fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elsie Atafwa. Very elaborate on the key areas that we need to be looking at, and specifically the key questions that we need to be asking ourselves as we talk about tackling not only income poverty, but also multi-dimensional poverty. And I cannot attempt to repeat any of those. They were elaborate and very, very clear. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me invite Mr. Moses Kagwa, who is the Director of Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And Mr. Kagwa is ably representing the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, who will also later on invite a guest of honor, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, and then we'll officially launch the MPI.
The Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in charge of planning, Honorable Amos Lugorobi, the Chairman, Board of Directors, UBOS, the Executive Director, UBOS, development partners present, representatives from government, ministries, departments and agencies, media fraternity, all invited guests. Good morning to you all. It's my pleasure to be here for the release of the first Multidimensional Poverty Index report for Uganda and the validation exercise of the Poverty Status Report 2021. Over the years, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has consistently supported interventions geared towards reducing households' poverty and all its dimensions through policy measures and the budget processes. Indeed, since inception of the Poverty Eradication Action Plan in 1997, government has invested heavily in infrastructure such as roads, electricity, with the intention of boosting low-cost production of goods and services and improving market access. Government has also intensified the progressive modernization of agriculture. Public investments in infrastructure and social services such as education and healthcare have borne fruit, resulting in tangible improvements in social welfare. Consequently, income poverty reduced from 21.4% in 2016-17 to 20.3% in 2019-20 in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, while income inequality reduced in the same period from 0.419 to 0.413, representing a reduction of 1.4%. However, in spite of the gains registered, the pace of socio-economic transformation remains slow. Indeed, the main findings from the Uganda National Household Survey 2019-20 indicate that 1, more people are moving out of poverty than those moving back in. The transition in and out of poverty are hugely explained by the vulnerability of households in poverty. 2, vulnerability, the likelihood of becoming poor, now surpasses poverty as Uganda's foremost development challenge. Climate change, pandemics, and individual household characteristics are now major drivers of vulnerability in poverty. 3, chronic poverty still prevails mainly among individuals earning their livelihoods in agriculture, which is 15.5%, and residing in rural areas at 13.4%. 4, inequality has decreased, albeit with sub-regional disparities, in part due to the COVID-19 lockdown, especially in the border districts, drought in Karamoja and other parts of the country, as well as floods and poor harvest in 2019-20, which had a disproportionately higher negative impact on areas with low rates of registered land rights. 5, northern and eastern sub-regions scored the highest rate of persons experiencing chronic poverty at 27.1% and 14.1% respectively. 6, similarly, majority of those who transitions back to poverty were involved in agriculture, 9.7%, and resided in rural areas, 9.5%. With the advent of the parish development model, transformation of the grassroots communities will be achieved by elevating them into the main economy and overcoming poverty in the process. I'm pleased that UBOS is spearheading the collection of baseline data, which will provide us with a basis for tracking the performance of household enterprises and ensure the success of the program. We should note that despite the effects of COVID-19 and current global wave of rising commodity and oil prices, our economy continues to grow steadily. Indeed, recently, Uganda's GDP per capita rose to US dollars 1,046. Ladies and gentlemen, Multidimensional Poverty Index complements the traditional monetary policy measures by capturing the acute deprivations that people face beyond income, These indicators provide pointers to where we need to focus our efforts. Since the MPI relies on the National Household Survey Series, it provides us an opportunity to further scrutinize the multifaceted aspects of poverty and how we can deal with them. I wish to interest us all to take note of the trends in the multidimensional aspects of poverty. As I conclude, I wish again to thank UBOS, EPRC, NPA, and other partners, especially UNDP, and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative for supporting the processes of developing the MPI and finalizing the Poverty Status Report 2021. This work will go a long way in aiding Uganda government's interventions towards making evidence-based decisions aimed at transforming Uganda into a modern and monetized economy, devoid of poverty in all its dimensions. At this juncture, I want to take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Minister to give his keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses Kagwa. The Executive Director, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, at the moment partners present, comprising Madame Else Atafa, the UNDP Resident Representative, Dr. Munir Sefredin, the UNICEF Representative, Dr. Mary Otieno, the UNFPA Representative, Dr. Antonio Querido, the FAO Representative, Mr. Abdul Rahman Meagag, WFP Representative, Dr. Ometri Pozdev, UNSDF Head of Office, Dr. Bayo Fatumbi, the WHO Deputy Representative, Madame Grace Perry, UN Human Rights Deputy Representative, Madame Brigette, UNHCR Deputy Representative, the UN Women colleagues, representatives from government ministries, departments, and agencies, from your various capacities, the media fraternity, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. First of all, I wish to express my appreciation to you all for the distinguished roles that you play and the leadership you provide in improving the socio-economic well-being of all Ugandans. We are here today to launch the Multidimensional Poverty Index MPI report for Uganda and to validate the Poverty Status Report 2021. Over the years, Government of Uganda has invested heavily in programs geared towards ending household poverty with an intention of moving every Ugandan into the money economy. It is therefore not a coincidence that income poverty has reduced from 56% in 1992-93, 21.4% in 2016-17, to 20.3% in 2019-2020. Mr. Kagwa has alluded to this, and the presenter has also made details about this, Mr. Vincent. I wish therefore to emphasize the importance of quality statistics in supporting the success of government programs. And indeed, what we have seen today is a great innovation in terms of understanding poverty. Because as we are beginning to celebrate our success, then we are confronted with this evidence in terms of the various deprivations. And you have looked at the regional representative of this indicator, the MPI indicator. And you could clearly see that there are areas that are being left behind. So it's a very useful indicator for us, and we want to thank the UN family for this great innovation. Right from the first National Development Plan, NDP-1, evaluation of government programs indicates that statistics are an essential and integral part of our development processes. The significant reduction in poverty reflects government commitment to transform the country from a subsistence-based economy to a prosperous middle-income economy. With the adoption of the parish development model, it is envisaged that we shall further bring down the poverty levels by strengthening the household as the economic base. I would like to note that as we implement the parish development model, I've noted from the presentation that perhaps we need to revisit some of the parameters being used in this model, especially in the various pillars, depending on the various dimensions that have been reflected in this report. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm informed that this MPI report is based on the Uganda National Household Survey 2019-2020 series, which provides statistical indicators underpinning the socio-economic characteristics at both household and community levels. This is essential for monitoring development performance of key indicators in the various sectors in relation to household welfare. That's why, together with our development partners, who are very well represented here, we continue to support the National Household Survey series to help us understand and keep track of the performance of the initiatives necessary to eliminate poverty and achieve greater prosperity that leaves nobody behind. In order for us to eliminate household poverty, there arises a need for us to look at poverty in all its multiple dimensions and how it affects our people. This also puts us on the right track of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, as commonly called. I wish to reiterate that the government has been alert and focused on eliminating poverty and all its dimensions since the inception of the Poverty Eradication Action Plan, which was commonly called PEP in the 1990s. The first SDG requires that efforts are focused beyond simply looking at income poverty towards considering poverty in all its multiple dimensions, as the presenter indicated. Over the years, based on statistics from UBOS, the government has overhauled its programs with the intent of delivering Ugandans from multidimensional aspects of poverty. This has been aimed at improving human welfare and ensuring that Ugandans live prosperous and productive lives. For the past 30 years, government has been focusing on attracting investments necessary to create jobs to absorb the entire national labor force. And indeed, that falls in line with what the UN representative was saying as one of the responses that we need to have in place. So government remains committed to this inalienable objective and is focused on building the requisite infrastructure, including roads, electricity, ICT, and railway networks to boost investment and takes these to the last mile. Although we have not yet reached where we want to be, we are making steady progress in ensuring that all these areas are given the attention they deserve. In fact, I should mention that we are now doing a mid-term review of the National Development Plan, and I've been presiding over the various high-level meetings involving ministers and all the key stakeholders in the programs contained in the National Development Plan 3, the actually 20 programs. So tomorrow we are concluding that process of high-level meetings, and this indeed comes in very handy. This report comes in very handy to support that process. We are now going to be very well equipped with the evidence emerging from this report. I therefore wish to laud Uganda Bureau of Statistics for producing this first multidimensional report for Uganda. In addition, I also thank the Economic Policy Research Center, the National Planning Authority, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, OPHI, and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, for the technical and financial support extended in ensuring that this report is produced. I should have included the Ministry of Finance. I think we should congratulate ourselves as well. So today's event facilitates widespread dissemination of the multidimensional poverty index report findings. We are now disseminating this information, and it is being made public. And this should trigger our focus to support government programs in maximizing the benefits to the populace. These programs are also bridge the gaps identified to improve the quality of life of Uganda's population. Together, we can build the Uganda that we want. And under the AU agenda of 2063, we can achieve the Africa that we want. Now, before I say for God and my country, I want to take this honor to actually launch this report, the MPI report. I should be guided on how to go about it.
Yes, definitely, Honorable Minister. We are going to have this signed, and I'm having the ushers come up right. And I will also invite Ms. Elsie Atafua to join the stage and join the Minister in launching this. I will also have the entire UN team, actually, the UN family, let's all get joined onto the stage together with the Executive Director, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, as well as Mr. Kagwa in your capacity representing the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury. There is a bit of surprise, so do not get surprised by a bit of sound that you will hear at your back. That is just in celebration mode. It won't be a bomb, so we are in safe hands. It is entirely secure. We will be having that officially launched. But ladies and gentlemen, much later on, yes, we will have the validation of this report particularly. So I will have, first of all, the Minister and the UNDP resident rep officially having that, and we will have the entire UN family to the back as well. Please, the UN family, please come up. You have made this happen, and we are here because of all the work that you've put in together with the Ministry of Finance, together up. We'll be just right side by side as we have the Minister sign against that. I hope that we have actually been directed on how that beautiful report is going to be unveiled. A special thank you to EPRC, a special thank you to the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, and the National Planning Authority, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. So we will unwrap that so we can be able to find out what exactly is happening. So at the count of 3, 2, and 1, we will officially report, officially be able to launch this multidimensional poverty report. The first of its kind, looking at the different dimensions of poverty, different aspects. We have a sanitizer right here, and we will be able to sign up. We'll start with the minister himself as he signs up on this first of its kind multidimensional poverty index report, which is supplementing the poverty index reports that we have had. We will now have UNDP sign up on that. Thank you so much for all the work that has come through. It is very, very clear that there are a lot of dimensions that need to be paid attention to. Aspects of education, aspects of health, living standards, employment, financial inclusion. And it was clear from a presentation by Mr. Senono from Uganda Bureau of Statistics, who clearly indicated that multidimensional poverty almost more than doubles income poverty that we have seen exist for quite a period of time. But there is a gender aspect, unfortunately, to the multidimensional poverty or deprivation, where he did clearly mention that the female-led households have more deprivation than the male-led households right there. And it's very clear, multidimensional poverty is more than income poverty. So ladies and gentlemen, a special thank you to all those who have made these come to pass. The work that Uganda Bureau of Statistics has done in creating this quality statistics and information, and just like Honorable Amos Lugolovi did clearly indicate that quality statistics is needed in the planning processes, and this is what we exactly have at this particular point in time. We can even sign below, so yes, feel free to bend, tilt a little bit and be able to sign up on that document, which we are getting for the very first time. And this is very clear that we will not only look at poverty in the realm of the monies, in the realm of the income, but a little bit more. The UNDP resident rep did clearly indicate aspects of trade that need to be looked at, aspects of tourism, which we need to focus on, especially in tackling rural poverty. Right there, I mean, trading amongst ourselves as Africa at only 16.6%, and yet we have a billion population, more than a billion people. I think there is just a little bit more that we need to do in that regard as Africa. And it is not only trading goods and services, but the trade creates opportunities. It helps us fight poverty. And remember, according to the Sustainable Development Goals, no poverty, goal number 1. A guest of honor will be speaking to us again just shortly before we leave.
I just want to say that we do all this for God and my country.
Thank you so much. I hope that the group photo has officially been taken. Any? Yeah, the paparazzis have said it's okay. So thank you very much to the UN team. Thank you very much to the minister. But we will have another group photo taken just right outside, Honorable. As you step out, I know that it is a very, very busy schedule for you and you will need to be leaving. So we are giving you that opportunity. But I will request that the UN family as well will go with you and make sure that we have that other photo outside. And Honorable Minister, I know that the press would like to speak to you, the EDU boss as well, the media, my colleagues would like to speak to you in detail. So we will also have the press moment right outside right about now. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, after the presentation of this multidimensional poverty index and the discussion of the paper that was done by Mr. Vincent Senono and Mr. Richard Sewachirianga in that order, we would like to hear, because it is not a calm talk and that is just it, we would like to hear from us. I know on the media, our media colleagues, we might be saying bye-bye to you pretty soon, but I would just Okay, I will be switching this. I am going to request that our ushering team will be getting us these mobile microphones. We'll first of all have a plenary discussion with regard to the presentation that was made earlier here by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. I know that many of our guests have stepped out just a little bit, so we will allow them back in just a few minutes, and right after that have our plenary discussion about the report as is, and that will be shortly before we go into the validation of this report. So you could feel free to stretch out a little bit, just say hello to your neighbor once again, and then we will get into our plenary session just right after that. But let's keep in here. Thank you.